Hi, Brock here again from Roji Gardening. Today I'm going to explain something called the Daisugi technique, an ancient Japanese forestry technique that was used in the construction industry but has been adapted in Japan to make statement trees, usually outside the front of their home, and completely overlooked it seems in the West and very rarely seen. Almost none of your neighbours will have ever seen this, and incredibly for a Japanese style tree, they're relatively quick to create. So let me show you what we're doing. This is a simple drawing of a Cryptomania japonica, the species that covers 25% of Japanese islands and is known as sugi, hence the name Daisugi. It's known in England as the Japanese redwood, and the reason for that is that it's very quick growing, and if left untamed it can be up to 70 metres tall with a 4 metre wide trunk. It's this ability to grow quickly though which is very useful in the Daisugi technique, along with its other unique selling point, which is for a conifer, it will grow out of old wood. So, how do we go about the Daisugi technique? We grow a tree to the height of around 6 to 7 meters, which can take around 6 to 7 years depending on your climate, but primarily until the diameter of the trunk is the same as a beer can. At that point, you do something Western gardeners would never dream of. At around half a metre high, we cut the trunk here. Now, I've explained basic pruning before, but just as a reminder, if this is the final cut and you've got maybe 4 or 5 metres of growth above it, my advice to you is make a cut slightly higher first, just in case the trunk snaps and you get a tear, and then you can make your final cut here. But still, something radical, I'm sure you'd agree, for a Western gardener to do. In addition to this, you prune these branches back to around half a metre away from the central trunk. And you also prune many of the smaller growth around here until you end up with something that looks more like a daisugi. Daisugi in Japanese, dai is the word for big, but in this instance it's known as a platform cedar, and this is what you end up with. Now, when you do this, your neighbours will be extremely shocked, extremely surprised, but have faith. Very quickly, you'll start to get new growth. This pruning, I should point out, needs to be done in the spring. Within just a few weeks, you'll start to see some new buds appearing along the length of this. And within anywhere from 3 months, but you'll leave it for 12 months, these buds will grow into some perfectly vertical branches effectively, or new trunks. The following spring, you will find that there is more new growth here horizontally off these branches, but there is also these perfectly vertical new trunks. So what we do is we go in and we provide light and we prune these again. And by pruning some of them, we end up with an interesting looking shape, and ideally in Japan they're trying to aim for something of that form of shape amongst these vertical branches. Now, after 6 months or so, you will start to see that this growth will really accelerate, because obviously it has the root system of the original tree. And at that point, what you do in the autumn, or you can leave until the following spring, is you do a secondary prune whereby you remove everything but the top 30 centimetres of each of these leaders. You can also tidy up some of this horizontal growth down here, but once again, you need to be aware that in the future, some of this horizontal growth is going to be where new leaders come from. As I said before, this tree can grow up to 70 metres in height. So what we're looking to do, what they look to do in Japanese gardens, particularly outside the front of their houses, is they'll allow maybe this leader to get to 3 metres, some as high as 7, 8, 9 metres, and then they'll take it out and leave this to be the new leader, and they'll allow other new growth to create new leaders. As a result, you end up with an ever-changing daisugi, an ever-changing, interesting statement tree outside the front of your house, which is particularly good in windy sites, because obviously this trunk will thicken over time. And believe it or not, in Japan and in the forests of Japan, this was done partly to prevent trees collapsing in typhoons, because it actually made them far stronger and wind resistant. So, if you want to make a statement to your neighbours, in a rather short time frame, think from a cutting to this final tree could be 7 to 8 years, then take a look at the Daisugi technique. Very few people in the West do. Any questions, let me know.